who was the person that the person or situation you had to forgive the most?
He's my dad.
Your dad. Okay.
Yeah. That was after I went through that, everything was at ease for me in relationship with men, for sure. It took me 15 years.
Wow.
To do that. So it was very special. To go through that experience and to learn what I learned and to be able to forgive. That was a huge lesson for me.
Welcome to another episode of What's Up with DJ. I'm your host, DJ. Each week, I bring you topics about current events, career development, finance, holistic living, life hacks, and stories of inspiration and humor, all from a spiritual perspective. So be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and consider leaving a review on Apple Podcast. Your thoughts, opinions, and comments are always encouraged and appreciated. With that being said, let's get right into the show. In part 2 of my conversation with V.V. Tai, author of the book Living Through Alchemy, A Transformational Journey to Freedom, and van life enthusiast, we will discuss in our conversation what is van life and how losing her U.S. work visa ultimately led her to Canada. She went through a spiritual journey to figure out what was going to make her happy. After Vivi read the book The Alchemist, she discovered that minimalism and traveling while living in her vintage Dodge van opened her up to finding fulfillment and happiness. She now helps others discover their true calling through Tyro and Reiki.
Because I was the kind of person like to be quiet and be in my peace, and I don't want to mess with everybody, but I think just keep happening to me, So, and I didn't know what to expect. No matter how much I wanted to please all my coworkers and get to know him, nothing was really good enough. After certain events that happened, I really wanted to prove myself. And I decided to take on an additional project that was not really required of me. And I asked the senior engineer at, in the department to help me with it. And we were kind of working together to help them with a really big project that I was working on. And so I just designed the plane. Even though they didn't ask me to do it, but I just wanted to prove myself. And so I did that and I presented to them. And what they did was they took my name out of the plane and they presented to the higher level. And at that point, I think after that incident, I had enough. After that, I was I had enough. Why did they discredit me? Even though I did extra work to please them, and they did not even ask me to do it. I just wanted to make my boss happy. So that
backfired. So basically, that really backfired when they didn't give you credit for someone else is presenting your work with their name on it. So that must have been crushing for you.
Yeah. After that, I realized, okay, this is not the place that I want to work anymore. And I was why? After I really questioned, why did I have to put myself through this? Why do I have to please all these people? And it's going to work every day was feel really depressing for me. And because of that anxiety, I never feel it felt like carrying a rock on my shoulder to go to work every day. And I eventually it did crumble in a very bad way because I did sue them for certain things that they did. And we came through with the settlement, but that means that I would have to leave the country because I had to lose the job.
Mm-hmm.
they actually, yeah, it was very, very messy, like how that ended. And because of that, I realized that this is not for me. This path is no longer for me. Like, why did I have to put myself through so much stress and anxiety for more than a year to please everyone? And the more it felt like the more I was chasing that freedom, that was like that green card status on that status, the more it felt like restrictive to me. Like I was like, where is the freedom in this country? I didn't feel it at all, you know? So I eventually gave that up. It had to go through, it had to go to be that way.
So you sued the company. You got a settlement. Then of course that's going to end your employment at the bank. Well, not all the time, but for you it did. So now you're back in Vietnam. Because you don't have your H-1B visa. You know, everything that you worked up to this particular point basically has, you know. It was, I won't say it was no reason, but what do you tell yourself? What do you tell yourself when you had to go back to Vietnam? What did you say to yourself? What did you say to your parents?
So yeah, I told them I wanted to travel the world. And my mom.
What I'm saying, when you went back to them, when they said, "Why are you back here? What happened? Where were you? You know?"
I couldn't tell them in the beginning. I hid it for months. Until like I was like, oh, I had to go back home now, until like I lost everything, and eventually I have to give up everything, and I have to buy my ticket, my plane ticket. That was like I had to tell them, and they were very calm about it, and they kind of concerned about me as well, being in the country alone by myself. They didn't really say anything. Obviously, they was also upset. But they didn't really say anything like put more oil into the fire, because it was already enough stress for me, and I think they could feel that.
So they knew that you was under a lot of pressure there. You were making them aware that this was a highly intense situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they did ask me, okay, what do you want to do next?
Okay.
That's what
So what did you say when they asked you that question? So when they asked you what do you want to do next, what was your answer? You said earlier, you know, I want to travel the world, right?
Yeah. And the reason I said that was it's connected to your previous question, because that was when the book The Alchemist came into my life, and it's reignited my passion for traveling. And it's the biggest lesson that I learned from that book is to listen to your heart.
Listen to your heart. Yes, because the lesson this is the lesson that I'm listening to you, and this is the lesson that I'm getting, and lesson I've gotten to. The more that I've tried to please people, and you know, trying to please them because because I have a goal in mind. They already know your goal is. They know that you're not really trying to say yes and please me because you like me. They know that the back of your mind is not to please me. It is, you know, your intentions are always. I mean, you know this now, that your intentions are always. People see what they are. And they know that you're saying yes because your intention is to keep your visa, and you feel that you're at a disadvantage because you are, you know, you're trying to work towards that goal of your green card. So they see that, so they don't even take you seriously because they feel as though that your appeasement of the situation isn't authentic. And also the other thing about it is that the more I try to appease people, the less satisfied they are, you know. And I realized that I had to put like this is the way it's going to be when you're working with me. This is the way it's going to have to be when these are the boundaries. These are my boundaries, and these are the consequences if you cross those boundaries. And what I discovered, that I'm sure you've as well at this particular point, that people That's respected. When you say this is my boundary, people respect it. Like, oh, okay, that's your boundary. All right,
Yeah,
So you didn't feel comfortable setting boundaries because you felt as though if I set boundaries, if I say to you these are the consequences for treating me badly,
yes, yes,
then you feel like that would be a
exactly.
bad thing. But actually,
Yes,
that's a good thing. And people like
yeah,
when you
yeah.
set boundaries because at least like now at least I know. So you wasn't doing
Exactly,
that.
yeah. I was definitely people pleaser for sure. So a lot of it was actually my fault, because I took the job even though I knew that it wasn't good for me. Even though because I tried to cling on to that like H-1B status,
Mm-hmm.
and so and the trait for that was I had to please other people, and if you try to please other people, you have to like set your boundaries back, like allow them to step on over you. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that was a huge lesson for me. um,
Mm.
so and looking back now, like I did see that a lot of responsibilities was like for that to happen was also because of me for allowing that to happen. But of course, like you were young, like you don't know
Yeah.
anything until you learn the lessons. So
Right.
that was the reason why I decided I'm not going to let that happen again in my life, and I would have to choose to live differently. And that's how it's got me interested into personal development in the beginning, because during that time I was seeking for help. Like I went to like Barnes and Nobles like very frequently, like whenever I can, like to read all those self-help
Mhm.
books.
Me
Like
too.
what the hell is going on with my life? Was like what
Right.
can I do now?
What is I'm a good person. I'm doing everything right. Why is it not working out? It's obviously something that I'm missing. It's something that I'm
Yeah,
not getting, and so
yeah,
that's the reason why I went down to Barnes and Nobles and to
yeah,
back when they had the bookstore, a Books a Million. I would be
yeah,
there every single week in the personal development and self help section
yeah.
because, and I found the book. For you it was The Alchemist. For me it was Your Erroneous Zones by Dr. Wayne Dyer. So I found that
Yeah,
book, and that changed my whole perspective because I was blaming everybody as you, and other people were doing all
mm-hmm.
this to me,
Yeah,
and it was because I hadn't, I hadn't set any boundaries, so people could walk
yeah,
all over it. And then you can set boundaries, but if you don't say, well, if you cross this boundary, this is the consequences. That's just
yeah,
part
yeah.
two of it that you have to realize that look,
Yes,
if you I can't deal with you if you're going to keep doing this. So I didn't have any of that. So I always felt like I was getting trampled over because I just didn't know. I thought you'd be a good person, you'd be kind, and you treat
yeah,
people
yeah.
nicely, and you'd be really
Mm-hmm.
smart. Then good things are going to happen, and when that wasn't happening, I was like, okay, now what's going on here? So
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
having
for
those
sure.
epiphany moments. You're realizing that it's
Yeah.
something that I'm not. It's something a part of the equation that I'm missing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's like at the time that I found out about the book Alchemist, I was also around the same time I was also reading the book The Secret, and then I was meeting a friend who was a nomad as well, and so like all of that kind of put together for me, and that's how it kind of like get me to like be more interested in like personal development and traveling and follow the passion and follow my heart. Um, so and when my parents asked me like what do you really want to do, that's why I answered that like I didn't know what to do. Like I just wanted to travel. That was as simple as that. I just really wanted to travel and be free. Like the more I was restricted, the more I wanted to break free.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So at this, so you're reading The Alchemist, and that's inspiring you. The Secret, you've sort of this friend who's a nomad, and you're learning about those aspects. So how does that transform you to start looking into van life? So how does that translate?
So So now I was already in Vietnam, and because I decided to leave the country, so I applied for the immigration to Canada. A friend of mine actually suggested me that, and I looked it up, like whether, and I wanted to see whether I was qualified, and I was. So I was ecstatic to know that, oh, maybe I could go to Canada instead. That's where I wanted to go when I was younger. And I thought because the cultures was very close to the US as well, so it would be like an easy transition for me. So it makes sense that I should apply for the immigration to Canada, and I did. And at the time, I wanted to live Vietnam because I didn't feel like I could fit in with the culture, even though I took that 2 years to really travel around Southeast Asia and around Vietnam. And I learned so much more about my old country, and I learned so much more about Southeast Asia, and I really fell in love with it. Like, I love traveling around Southeast Asia. It's so much fun. It's definitely a different kind of adventure. And the food is so amazing. I had probably one of the best time in my life in Southeast Asia. Even though it was really shocking, it was really hard for me in the beginning, but I felt like I kind of make a leap through and get through with that fear of shame. And because of traveling, like it pulled me out of darkness, I think, by following that passion. And whenever I get to travel, like doing solo travel, that is like my own escaping zone. And so when I got accepted to go to Canada, I did some research, and I kind of like, okay, what is it I really want to do in Canada? Like, what kind of life I want to live? Keep searching and searching about different lifestyle in YouTube. Like, the first thing that came into the first thing that came up was tiny houses, and then I was, because of like an experience that I had in northern Vietnam, I was kind of like interested in minimalism. Like to live simply. And then the concept of van life came up, and I just thought that it was fantastic. Like, because I have a dog with me. Like, I adopted my dog in Vietnam.
Okay.
And I was like, if I live in a van, then I would have my own private space, then I don't have to worry about roommates or like landlord complain about dogs, because like renting with dogs is probably very difficult. And I wanted to travel, and I wanted to cut expenses to learn about myself. And so the concept of van life certainly felt very attractive to me at that time. And like, I planned about it even before I came to Canada. So I actually came to the US first before I got to Canada. So I left my car in the US, and after I get accepted to go to Canada for my.
So you left you sold your car, or you just left it out of the road, or when you say you left the car?
So I left my car in the US, and after 2 years staying in Vietnam, I came back to the US. Then I took like a 1 month road trip along the West Coast to Vancouver, Canada, and that's how I ended up in Vancouver, and that's where it started. Did
you have the issue of how I'm going to I'm leaving my job, I don't have income coming in, I'm not working, I'm going to buy this Dodge van, vintage Dodge van. What was your thoughts about money? Like, okay, how I'm going to be able to pay for my life?
Yeah, so I did think a lot about it, and that's the reason why after I purchased my van, I applied for jobs to work in Vancouver, and I took whatever job I could at that time.
So what job were you doing at that particular time before COVID hit? Like March 2020, when COVID really began?
Yeah, I was selling coffee machine. and I love it because I got to talk to people and because I love the product. So like it was very easy for me to sell.
Is it like one of those Keurig,
It was Nespresso's coffee machine.
Okay.
The pandemic happened, and so they have to put everyone on temporary leave. But then they asked everyone to come back again in the summer when everything opened up. But then during those couple months, I traveled quite a bit outside of Vancouver because I didn't have anything to do. I didn't have any reason to be in Vancouver during that time. It's not good to be in the city when you're in quarantine anyway.
Yeah, right.
So it was very chaotic to be in the city. If I kept staying in Vancouver and kept working, doing the same thing, it has already been more than 2 years now, and I still haven't figured that out. So if I keep doing the same thing, like I don't think I would figure it out, you know. So I have to do something else differently, and so I just keep following that intuition, and that yearning that I had to leave. I had to go to the east. And even though I didn't quite know the answer, so that was the
And when you say the East, you mean Nova Scotia? What do you mean when you say the East?
I actually didn't have a clear definition about the East was. I just knew that it's the East direction that I had to go. that was kind of intuition. So I thought it was really strange, because I was kind of curious about exploring the country. Like I went for van life. I wanted to travel. I wanted to explore, and being in Vancouver, BC wasn't because after 2 years, I feel like I explored a lot of places in BC already. Like maybe I wanted to expand my exploration, my discovery, maybe. And so going east was kind of I had a feeling like pulling toward the east, and so I just followed that. Yeah, even though I didn't know, maybe I'm going to end up in the Atlantic, maybe I'm going to end up somewhere else. On that trip, I kind of just have an open plane, wherever I need to end up at a time.
Whatever your intuition tells you to go, you say, okay, well, that's a possibility.
Yeah, and it did open up a lot of opportunities for me. And the first year I ended up in Montreal.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to Montreal. I heard it's kind of like a New York kind of energy, a vibe.
It's very different. It's very French. It's very unique, very artsy. I definitely really love Montreal. I love the vibe of Montreal. It's very unique. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot of old building. It's kind of like Boston, but more French. Boston is more like English. But Montreal is more French style.
Okay.
It's very pretty. It's very pretty town. I love that town. So the first year, which is last year, I ended up in Montreal, and there was a lot of things that happened there, and that's where I started to write the book, and that's where I really get to anchor down and start the business and get to think about my entrepreneurship. But in the beginning, that book was going to be about my van life. But as I dig deeper into the personal growth, when the questions get deeper and deeper for me, it turns out that the realization came to me that van life was more about my spiritual growth. And so that's how that's the reason why my book is not just about my van life, but it's about my spiritual growth through all the stages of my life. Van life kind of gave me the opportunities to be more in touch with nature, to push myself out of the comfort zone, and to overcome that fear of unknown. So it definitely helped me a lot with my spiritual growth, even though I didn't see it before. And I also did a lot of things on the side, like doing the coaching program, doing energy healing with Reiki and other kind of modalities, which kind of work on my spiritual development as well. And this serious events that happen, like with relationships with other people, that kind of push me to grow as a person along the way with the van lifestyle. And so in that book, I implement like different things that I learned in different places and philosophy that I learned from different places, and put it in my own experience so that people can really understand what it's like to go through the transition, the transformation of growth in the structure of alchemy. So yeah.
So for your structure of alchemy, because I read that structure somewhere before, the different steps of the
7 stages of alchemy.
The 7 stages, yes. So where did you get the 7 stages from?
So the Alchemist book was definitely all about alchemy. Like there's a lot of hidden wisdom from that, but of course it was not very obvious because it's a novel. But when you understand the concept of alchemy, clearly you understand the book in a much, much deeper level.
Yeah, because even the words that you chose, the 7 steps, the words were very specific, and I'm like, okay, these words. So I kept like, where did these words come from? You know, where?
So at the time I was writing the book, I stumbled upon this show called Mystery Teachings from Gaia, the Gaia Network, and it was presented by Dr. Teresa Bullard, and she explained alchemy in a way that's very easy to understand. Like, I think Carl Jung is probably the most well-known person to get this concept back into the modern life. The alchemy has several series of alchemy, like every stage, like the big book of about alchemy in every specific stage. But he also have like one particular book about all different 7 stages. But so I knew about this concept from Teresa, but she explained it using tarot cards. I don't know if you're familiar with tarot cards. I
have a deck. Yes.
Oh, you have a deck.
Yeah.
So it's but it's the original one from William Reid.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, the Raider Smith tarot deck. So in that deck, the major arcana from 0 to 21. If you put it in the circle, it's called the mandala wheel from 0 to 21. That the journey of your alchemy going through the 7 stages that depicted in the tarot. So each tarot card gives you the wisdom explanation of each state, like the characters of each state and what it looks like, and what energy that, what archetypal energy that actually influence it in that stage. So it's also incorporate astrology and numerology as well in these cards. So every number that's why it's very specific. There's so much wisdom in these tarot cards. Like even the number of the card has a meaning, the color has the meaning, the images has certain meanings. So as you understand it, like this is to understand the concept of mandala wheel. It's very different with how you read the card intuitively. So there are many different ways for you to use tarot card. So this is to understand the symbolism. So I don't talk about tarot reading. That's something else that's different. Okay. So as you understand the journey going through card from 0 to 20, card 21. So from card 0 to 7, that is kind of like the preparation for the great work. Then from card number 8 is when you start to stepping into your alchemist journey by going through different challenges, because at every single stage is going to present you a certain challenge in order to purify your energy to get you more aligned on the path if you make the right decision, of course. And so if you make a different decision, otherwise you're still going to go run around in that.
So, yeah. You don't wait out of it, you you're going to, I always say it to people, you're going to grow. You might go skipping and hopping, or you may go screaming and kicking. Yes, but you're going to go.
Yeah, and so so it does happen to everyone, but not everyone is aware of it, and that's the reason why we don't know that it happens to us. Sometimes like certain challenges are kind of like it's fall on you, and you think, oh, everything just happened to me. Like, even though I'm a good person, well, it happens to me to you for a reason, and it could be and it could be the challenge to push you to grow through that alchemical stages. And so when you understand the tarot that way, it kind of get you the idea of what energy influenced me at this stage. What's the wisdom that I need to learn from it? What's the advice that I need to listen to? So when I listen to Teresa explain it that way, I get to understand everything that happened to me in the US, why it had to happen that way, and why I needed to leave the country, because I was living a very materialistic life. Because I was on about the status, right? Trying to hang on to that green card status, because to me that was the freedom. So I was still hanging on that materialism.
Yeah, because that's one thing that came to me when I was reading your book, and about, that you kept saying, you associated green card with freedom, and we associate certain things, certain words, certain ideas with certain things. And for me, it's always been, I want to, to be on the beach, and I want to, really relaxing on the beach and all this stuff. And I had to, I always envision, I wanted a beach house, and I still like a beach house. Don't get me wrong. But something said to me, I have to make this much money and all this. And it was like, those things are okay, but to be on the beach, it doesn't really require any of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you have to make these ideas and concepts and barriers to get to something that you can already possess right now? And it's like, to me, you could have always, you say, I can, freedom is, you already had the freedom all the way back in Vietnam, when you already had the idea about Canada. Yeah. You already had the freedom when you could have, bought a Dodge van, and begin doing that life. But it required you to go through this. You may have not appreciated it as well if you just you went straight from Vietnam to Canada, bought the van, and then you're doing van life. It wouldn't have been the appreciation if you didn't do it the way that it happened.
Exactly. And I think that is, you have to be free first. I think the reason that I got my opportunity to go to Canada, because I exercising my freedom in Vietnam. So I first of all, because I let the restriction go, the idea to hanging on to the US, I let that go. And secondly, because I was exercising my freedom, whatever freedom that I had at that time, in order to follow my passion. And that's how I was able to obtain the freedom to come here, to live my van life, to live a free lifestyle. So I was like, whenever I could, I solo travel, and that was a way for me to express my freedom, to exercise my freedom, whatever that I had. And so it's like, utilize whatever level that you have in order to obtain the next level. So that's how you're able to go through the stages to get what you want in your manifestation. I didn't quite understand manifestation. Like, at the time, I knew about visualization exercise, and I did a little bit of that. But I think the reason for me to have the freedom that I had now was because I did my best to be free in a place that I didn't feel free. So that was a test for me, because like I thought like going back to Vietnam was like a failure, was like going to prison, because to me that was like a very restrictive environment. Because that was a culture that I was familiar with. That was on restriction. But if I could find freedom there, I can find freedom anywhere else. And I did, and that's how when I come here, I'm like, oh, now I'm all free. And I think because of that, it gives me the opportunity to have my freedom here in a different life in Canada. So that was only a test for me, for sure. Yeah.
So I want to because we're at almost at 2 hours. And time is
really
fly, right?
Away. Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I do want to let the audience know. I probably have to do. We'll have to do something so that we make sure that this is we get the 2 hours in. But how can the audience reach out to you, and what services do you provide?
So right now, they can reach out to me from my website, and I have my social media contact in there as well. And my website is called Living Through Alchemy. That's also the title of my book, livingthroughalchemy.com. So I have I'm active on 2 social media platforms. Instagram and YouTube. Like you have already mentioned my YouTube channel, and it's called Personal Growth Through My Life. And my Instagram account is SmileyVV05. That's still pretty much my personal account. Actually, I haven't got to change that. But that's where I get to express my passion about photography. And so now primarily I'm focused on working on my book, but I'm looking to expand my scope of work by providing Reiki services to people in the near future as well, and hopefully coaching to guide them on their life journey, especially going through the challenges. Because now I'm kind of, as I get to understand more about the stages of the stages of alchemy, and have journeyed through and experienced it, it's kind of like not just share the book, but kind of also help to guide other people to go through with their challenges as well. Because I also have a lot of help from my coaches, from my guide, from different teachers to help me to go through with these challenges. It's certainly like not something that you can really just do by yourself, So I'm working to expand on that as well at a certain point in the near future, to hopefully be able to guide other people to find more freedom within themselves. Because I think that's what we really need right now. That's what the world really needs right now. Because with the pandemic and everything that's happening in this world, like, we certainly can feel a lot of restriction, and there's a lot of frustration. And I think that happens to push us to reflect on ourselves as a society, as one unit society together, that we don't have that freedom within ourselves, and what we can do to be free. And that's all required the inner work, because it's inner, so outer. And so if you don't have, and so that, like, this whole events, like the global pandemic that happens, really show us quickly that we still have a lot of issues, dysfunctional issues that we need to work on, and that requires each individual of us to work on ourselves in order to obtain that freedom. It's not through to me, that's what I believe, because I don't think it's like you have to obtain freedom through war or through fighting, but to obtain the freedom from the inner self. And so I'm looking forward to be part of that movement to be able to help people find that freedom, because I think that's what we really need in the world right now. That's what
Yeah.
people really need in the world at the moment.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely been reading your book, Living Through Alchemy, and it's definitely, it's an easy read. And even though you are highly educated, you kept it so, it's not difficult to read, and I do like that you took each part of your life and you emphasized a tarot card to explain the card and also explain that particular phase that you were going through in the alchemy process. So I was like, oh wow, this is awesome. This is it's and also you offered the reader to do some of their own reflection as they read the book.
There's a journal prompt section in the book. Every chapter has a journal prompt. I'm glad you say that it's easy to read, because that was my concern when I was writing the book. Like, is it easy enough for people to read? Like, what if people actually understand it?
Yeah, it is. It is easy to read. I really, it's not complicated at all. I thought like, oh boy, she's this big Cornell University, so
because I love philosophy, and I was like, I incorporate a lot of philosophy in there. So, and also ancient wisdom. So I was just really afraid that people could really understand it, and I'm glad you say that.
Yeah, they can. And if you are a spiritual person, you're gonna know, the terms that are in there. You're gonna know the symbolism. But even if you're not a spiritual person, she makes it so inviting that you will still learn a lot, and it's still not intimidating the way that the way that you present it.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad. I mean, you got to wrap it up, but I am so glad that we had a great conversation, and I got to know your journey. And that's what's so awesome about I'm my podcast. I mean, of course, I love my podcast, but I get to learn about people's journey and how they get to where they are. Who was the person that the person or situation you had to forgive the most?
He's my dad.
Your dad. Okay.
Yeah. That was after I went through that, everything was at ease for me in relationship with men, for sure. It took me 15 years.
Wow.
To do that. So it was very special. To go through that experience and to learn what I learned and to be able to forgive. That was a huge lesson for me. And I'm more than grateful for it. And to be able to reconnect with my dad now, and to have more open conversation with him. And, it's really special. Like, after kind of ignore each other and not talk to each other for more than a decade.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we want to wrap it up, and I will have all those links to Vivi's social media in the show description. Also, how you can get her book. And I want to say thank you for joining me, and hopefully we get to talk in the future and see where you are in terms of van life and where it's taking you.
Thank you so much. It has been really my pleasure to be here, and it's such a pleasurable conversation. I have so much fun, so thank you for having me here.
Yes.